Arizona's 8th congressional district is one of the largest in the state. The district includes suburbs north and west of Phoenix. We scheduled a debate between candidates running for the open seat, but the Republican candidate declined our invitation. So earlier today, we sat down with the Democratic candidate, Gregory Whitten. Gregory Whitten, welcome to Arizona Horizon. Thank you so much for being here. We wanted a debate, not going to get a debate, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions here to figure out where you stand on a variety of issues. Our first question to you is, why are you doing this? This is a heavily Republican district, and you're a Democrat.
Well, I think mainly it was because I've spent most of my career in public service, and I couldn't stand by and watch a district be underrepresented by someone who her top bill was, saving gas stoves. There's so much that is in this district. I want to represent the people. TSMC, 80,000 jobs over the next 5 years. I want to create good jobs. There's senior citizens as well. There's a lot of issues, including Medicare. We need to go about that as well. So honestly, I'm running because I want to serve the constituents and not just a party.
The constituents in that district, though, again, lots of conservatives out there,
yes.
Heavily conservative. Are you conservative?
No, I am a moderate. I'm middle of the road. My grandfather, I'm a third generation Arizonan. My grandfather came here as mainly Orange Groves. He was good friends with Barry Goldwater and John McCain. So I want to get back to that moderate sense in Congress, and I want to work across the aisle to make sure that I deliver what the constituents need.
You mentioned economy. How best do you handle growth versus inflation? And I'm sure if your opponent were here, he would say that the government's living beyond its means and we're not paying our bills and too much government spending. How do you respond to all that?
Well, I think first and foremost, he supports a president over the constituents, and he would be for tax cuts for corporations. What I would want to do is I want to create good jobs. I want to be able to have the ability to put food on the table for those people that need it. And what I would say is that we need to be able to work across the aisle to bring them those jobs. So like I mentioned, going back to TSMC, 80,000 jobs over the next 5 years. You really want to be able to do those things. And so for me, what I want to focus on is how do we create those jobs so people then can afford housing and put food on their table. My opponent, on the other hand, wants to work with a party and wants to give big tax cuts to corporations, which will just increase inflation and not help the middle class.
But it can be argued that Democrats want to increase government spending. We saw a lot of that, obviously, post-COVID, during COVID, those sorts of things. Many blame inflation on that government spending, and some are saying that what's happening now is we're bankrupting future generations. How do you respond to that?
Well, if you want to go back to COVID spending, that was mainly under the Trump administration, which pushed that inflation during that time. What I would like to see is I would like to see a tax cut for the middle class.
I need to stop you right there. The Biden administration was very much involved with infrastructure and all these other sorts of federal programs here. You're not blaming the Trump administration?
No, what I'm saying is the Trump administration was part of the problem. What I'm saying is you can look at the Biden administration, you can look at Democrats, was also investment in infrastructure. So if you think about that, the CHIPS bill, $4 billion invested in my district, right? So TSMC, cornerstone of that, building technology, building jobs, building roads, building things like that. Those are things that I think, honestly, we need to be focusing on.
Do they come at a cost with inflation?
No, I do not think they come at a cost for inflation, because what I would do is I would look to the billions of dollars that tax cuts that Republicans want for corporations, and I would be taxing them to be able to provide middle class the jobs that they want.
You mentioned health care earlier on. How do you ensure affordable health care? And especially in that district out there, Medicare is a big concern. What do you say to folks out there who are worried about Medicare?
Well, unlike my opponent, who's going to be for tax cuts that's going to bankrupt these programs, what I would do is I would continue the negotiations on the top 10 drugs. I would also increase the Medicare tax 2% so that we can have these programs. The bottom line is I go in that district and I sit across from senior citizens every single day, and they're making decisions between their pharmaceuticals and their groceries. And honestly, those programs need to be funded. And so for me, what I would do is expand on the negotiation top 10 drugs, 2% increase on Medicare taxes, so then we can be able to afford that and keep these programs solvent.
2% increase in Medicare taxes. Who's increased? Across the board?
Across the board.
Okay, Social Security. Does that need a tax increase?
Social Security also needs a tax increase, and on top of that, we need to look at means testing for both of these programs, right? I want to be able to get it to the people that need it the most. So if you are a millionaire, a billionaire, you should not be tapping into these programs. There are a lot of people in my district that are suffering because of this, and I want to make sure that they are not making those choices over groceries and pharmaceuticals.
When it comes to Social Security, though, when you say means testing, you want to raise the age of retirement? How do you want to do that?
So for Social Security, what I would say is I wouldn't raise the age. What I would say is who's pulling Social Security, right? So across the board, what are the income brackets? Right now, it is capped at about $250,000. We got to go farther up on that and figure out who are the people that need to be tapping into Social Security so that they are solvent in their retirement, because people are living longer and we need to be able to do that. So that's what I'm saying by means testing.
Is that a message you think resonates with folks out there? Because I would imagine a lot of folks would hear that and say, I'm not into that.
I think what resonates in that district is the bottom line is that I'm trying to deliver for my constituents and make sure that these programs are around. People are living longer, so honestly, they don't want to think about being homeless. So for example, when I'm talking to constituents, one of the biggest things they talk about is elderly homelessness because Social Security is not covering their bills. So how do we make sure those people are getting it and the people that maybe don't need it don't?
You're running for Congress. Should Congress in any way act on abortion?
Yes, 100%. I would be for codifying Roe at the top. My opponent has said that he would throw doctors and nurses in jail. He says that it's about the states, but honestly, he just attended 2 weeks ago a pro-life dinner. He will, when he goes to Congress, try to ban abortion with no exceptions. In my opinion, I think that it should be between a woman, a doctor, and her family, not the government.
What about a time limit?
I think Roe, 21 weeks, it's been proven by medical experts, that is okay. I support the ballot initiative at the top of the ballot.
All right, so 21 weeks as opposed to what Arizona has, which would be 15 weeks. No exception. Rape and incest, you would have exceptions for that as well, I would imagine.
Yep.
Immigration, how do you address the issue? The border, according to your opponent and according to Republicans, is a complete disaster. You agree with that?
I think it's really funny that Republicans want to talk about this because, honestly, they play politics with the border. We had the most comprehensive border bill since Reagan, sponsored by one of the most conservative senators in the Senate. We had a bipartisan bill. They killed it. Just like my opponent, he's going to follow Donald Trump, whatever he says. They killed it so that Donald Trump had a better chance of winning. I don't want to politicize the border anymore. I want to deliver a safe, secure border to Arizonans and not play politics anymore.
And they will tell you that they didn't kill it because of Donald Trump. They will tell you that they killed it because it wasn't enough, and not good enough is not good enough.
Well, it wasn't. I don't understand how they can say it wasn't not good enough. The president had the ability to shut the border. They also would extend amnesty to be done at the border. So honestly, I don't understand where they're coming from, considering that it wasn't enough.
Do you think that Arizona has an immigration crisis?
Yes.
And you think the best way to handle that is?
Going back to that framework and working across the aisle to be able to deliver that bill, and then also on top of that, extending funding to the Department of Justice so that we can get control of this. Unlike Project 2025, which wants to defund the DOJ, we need to expand that funding.
The Remain in Mexico policy, what do you think of that?
I think that instead of remaining in Mexico, I would have it that they would be able to do their amnesty hearings at the border. I would get funding to the DOJ so that we could hire more judges. I also, just like that bill, would want the ability for DHS to be able to do some of this so that when they come to the border, they have a hearing within 48 hours. They have the ability to be able to be told yes or no and then move on in the system.
Build a wall, yes or no?
No.
Why?
Because a wall doesn't solve anything. The problem is that there's pieces of wall, there's everything else like this. It's been proven it does absolutely nothing. It's just a political stunt, and I'm sick of the Republicans doing that.
Then what would you do? And I guess we got the framework idea. I got all that business. But what would you do to enhance security we said we had a crisis here. I mean, do you put more people down there? Do you put more machinery down there? High tech?
So I actually worked on this at the Pentagon. When I was at the Pentagon, I worked on this. What we need to do is we need to increase funding to the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice. We need the ability to be able to put more agents at the border. We also need to extend the DOJ for the ability to be able to hear cases in a timely manner. So what I'm saying is we need funding and we need people, and we also need a third thing, technology, right? So right now there's a lot of underfunding. So with DHS, there used to be something called the DoD-DHS agreement where you could be able to do tech transfers all the time. And so honestly, I think we need to reestablish a framework like that so we be able to bring the technology that our military has to the border to be able to help DHS stop this problem.
And last question real quickly, because we're running out of time. You said the military aid for Israel, good or bad?
Military aid for Israel. So I think that Israel has a right to defend itself at the end of the day. But what is happening in Gaza is a humanitarian crisis, and we need to come to a solution across the board. I worked on this when I was in the Pentagon. I worked on the Syrian Red Line. I'm very familiar with this. We need to stop this right now, and we need to be able to still fund our ally because they are our ally at the end of the day, one of the longest standing. But at the same time, we need to be able to stop the crisis as it is right now.
Last question, military aid and funding for Ukraine, good or bad?
100%. We need to fund Ukraine. Unlike my opponent and his party who want to buddy up to Trump, I honestly think we need to stand with our allies. People forget that in the 1940s, Europe was pulling apart. We need to hold that together. We need to have a unified front, and we need to fight for democracy across the world. I'm not saying we need to be a police across the world, but we need to fight for democracy across the world.
Gregory Whitten, again, Democratic candidate, Congressional District 8. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.